reading something out yesterday,
No, I read.
didn't you?
So yesterday, for anyone, we just lost it. Just cut out. It did that thing. So yesterday, in the No Name Sunday show, there was a story about how an enormous number of Oscar winners struggle with their mental health and addiction issues. How bizarre is that? Something like
Bizarre, and then-
60% of best acting Oscar winners struggle with their mental health or
Yeah,
addiction issues.
and so on that, when we was like reeling from having seen him, you know, perform this massive, I think, act of violence, it was just horrific. And then he gets up and gave this quite meandering, I felt,
Speech.
unwell speech.
Yeah.
To me, he looked unwell. And he was talking about the demands to love the people in his family, demands to be a river for his community, a river around his community. And we were like, oh, right, okay, he's not okay. And then when he came off, and isn't it so, on the night he won an Oscar, he's going to be remembered for
hitting someone.
violence. It's just heartbreaking. Anyway, so then he left the stage, and there's some great photos, if that's the right word, of Bradley Cooper, just like he's just holding his shoulder and he's talking to him, and you can see that Will is he's just not quite there, is he? There's tears in his eyes.
Just going back to, so if you haven't seen, there's a part 1 to this where we explain what's happened. Really frustratingly, we lost coverage. So this is the story of Will Smith smacking Chris Rock, presenting an Oscar in the face for him essentially cracking a joke about Will Smith's wife Jada's haircut. And it all kind of went wrong, and that's the news story kind of the day. And we're just talking about the sort of various aspects of this. Was it, what was the cause? What are the reasons? What should be the consequences and all that? Just want to read Sophie R. I was at an Oscar party last night and can't explain how insane it was to watch it live. People had no idea if it was a bit joke for quite a while, and Twitter was just insane, a crazy night.
Oh, that's crazy.
And someone said, we were trying to remember what Chris Rock actually said, Will Smith just smacked the shit out of me.
And the fact that he's still standing, I mean, Sean King, who I follow and go to for all things, everything, every day, he said, I just can't believe Chris Rock didn't go down.
Yeah.
I mean, he's tall, he's muscly, and he had rage behind him.
But what was so strange about it was nanoseconds before, Will Smith was laughing.
But doesn't that say to you he's not very well?
No, I know, but that's my point. The idea that it sort of was even a slow build. I mean, Reese, you're right.
Somebody there saying Will Smith laughed first of all, but Jada looked cross.
Yeah,
that's what
and
Nick
they looked
Ferrari
across
was
at each
saying.
other. They looked across it. Well, we'll talk about that in a minute.
Because then later when he says, I'm being demanded to love the people, like his family, there seemed to be something in that he was saying.
Will should have been thrown out, says Lee, of the ceremony. Terrible. Well, we're going to get to what should have happened, Lee, in a minute. Reese Roberts, thank you. Well, we knew there was beef in 2016, and I've got a really strong opinion on that, but Reese gives us some context. Chris Rock and Will Smith contention has been brewing for a while now. In short, Will and Chris both started in the 90s, were competitive, but became friendly. Chris's Jada jokes, Oscar 2016 equals beef. Now,
but this makes me unhappy. I don't want to think that this is actually two men having beef and then they get into a fight. I want to believe that Will is struggling. Maybe that's just me being such a over empath, but that to me is the worst case scenario.
But can I just say, the first thing I thought when people was talking about goading whether Chris Rock should, Chris Rock has said he was unaware of the alopecia situation.
So we just have to take that as truth, because we'll never know whether that's the truth or not. We have to take that as truth.
Someone's just said Richard Madeley said Chris Rock is not nice. There are lots of not nice people in Hollywood. I don't think it necessarily means they'll get plonked in the face. And he might not be particularly pleasant. Who knows?
Well, actually, Richard Madeley said he's the most unpleasant guest he's ever.
Well, there you go.
But that doesn't. Nothing excuses.
But can I just say, one of the key aspects of an Oscar ceremony, an award ceremony. Look at Rebel Wilson the other night. Why does Ricky Gervais constantly want to do it for free? Roasting people in the audience is what it's about. I've heard roasting of certain people in the audience before. Leonardo DiCaprio being talked about, for having relationships with too young women, women that are too young. It's part of the shtick.
And
it's part of the shtick.
Also, I'd just like to say, if he didn't know that she'd suffered with alopecia, I didn't. I follow a lot of celebrities.
Yeah, I didn't realise.
It was not a nasty comment about her appearance. G.I. Jane was probably the most
cool.
sexy, cool. We all thought about having our head shaved when G.I. Jane. I didn't think that was an insult to the way she looked.
No.
I think she looked incredible, as G.I. Jane looked incredible, and it wasn't a nasty comment. Only if he knew she had alopecia.
Yeah. Jamie SB says, yeah, but isn't there a forewarning before you roast someone? No, there isn't.
Well,
not at these, although they do script these. Now,
But apparently, in the rehearsal, this was a pundit on Nick Ferrari this morning from Hollywood, said that there was a rehearsal and Will Smith was there and he heard the joke.
Right.
How can we know if that's true? That's just what I heard on the radio this morning. We don't know if that's true.
Well, you know what then? What I'm sensing really strongly is if you look microscopically at the footage, Will Smith, here's a situation that you can well imagine in a couple, and I think this is where the discussion becomes really interesting. Perhaps Will Smith was fine with it. And then, like you say, he looked across, saw fury, and what only a partner knows is going on in the face of a partner.
Well, that's
felt
why
he had to go and do
maybe
something.
that comment, the speech isn't anywhere, is it? I'm just trying to think what that comment was that he said, I'm being forced to love people in a certain way. But oh God, what's he going to say?
About his wife, her face, looking
Yeah,
over at
this
her.
is what I hated Nick Ferrari's
Here, I'm being called on in my
commentary on
life
it this
to
morning.
love people.
He was laughing. Oh, they got a bit of a slap. And, is a gentleman supposed to go and slap when their lady has been insulted? It's like, get out of the fucking dark ages, First of all, Jada Smith is a very smart, articulate, feminist woman. She would have been able to deal with that.
I don't understand why it wasn't dealt with off
Why
stage.
did we go to Neanderthal man, where I go up and it's just so bad in every way. It's just so bad. It's
Reese has an interesting point. Can we just say this about Chris Rock? Because I know you've worked with, I won't name who, but you've worked with a certain person who you thought was rude, and then you discovered that they had a neural diversity. Chris Rock, also from 2020, has been diagnosed with non-verbal learning disorder, which borders on a level of autism and often make people reevaluate their interactions with them based on that diagnosis.
So when Richard Madeley is saying, "Oh, he's the most watch himself," everyone is. But I will maintain, I don't think it was an insulting joke unless you knew she had alopecia.
But I totally agree.
To me, it was like it was the mildest of mildest roastings on the Oscars.
And I think he does say in the roasting, doesn't he say something like "I love you" or something? I mean, not in a meaningful way, but he kind of tried to soften the blow within it. Louise N. insulted. Okay, well, the bigger question is, regardless of how insulting it was, does it merit going up and punching him? Nanny Di, hi Mum, yes, it's still going on. Is this still going on? Nanny Di in the house. I'm so surprised by the Will Smith thing. Love you all. Yeah, I mean, does it ever merit going up and smacking someone in the face? Do you know what I mean?
No. And I just think. And then apparently after Bradley Cooper, I always want to say Bradley Walsh, comforted him. I do it every time. Then Denzel Washington, you said you were reading
hang on,
something
no.
about
The most astonishing thing. Listen to this. Will Smith revealed Denzel Washington said this at the point that he knew he was going to win or he had won. Denzel said to me a few minutes ago, "In your highest moments, be careful. That's when the devil comes for you."
Oh my God!
I know.
I've got goosebumps.
So did I. When I read that, I was thinking, Denzel is still in Macbeth. In your highest moments, be careful. And Denzel's a man who's struggled with his own mental health too. He's had a...
But also, Will Smith, his autobiography came out last year, and he talks about how he nearly killed his father because his father was a very violent man. And actually, Sean King says that today. He says, "It just breaks my heart," basically, obviously I'm paraphrasing. He said, he's held on to so much rage. And today it came out. Oh my God, that gives me goosebumps what Denzel Washington said.
Yeah.
So just at the pinnacle, when you can get no higher in his profession, an act of violence that is so shocking comes from him. I mean, what the fuck?
Yeah. Saab Turbo, no, I know there wasn't a punch. I'm saying they hit. I mean, it's a moot point.
punch.
It's a slap hit.
Hard slap.
It was hard enough for Chris Rock's head to go
It's
flying
outrageous.
back.
For me.
No violence.
I excuse no
I think
violence.
diminishing it to a
No.
slap, going up. I mean,
It
the other
is
thing, someone must have
terrific.
lost. You know, you're walking onto stage in front of, admittedly, not as big an audience as there used to be,
On the
but let's
world
say
stage.
10 million
On the
people.
world
You know,
stage.
my heart went out to people like the production team of Coda that won Best Picture, because no one is going to be talking about what won Best Picture. Everyone is going to be talking about the Will Smith hit. So you've got that. At the after parties, you said that Bradley Cooper was seen comforting him.
No. It was as he came off the
Oh,
stage.
as he came off the stage, yeah. But he had his hands on his shoulder, didn't he? Sort of
Both
almost
of his
to calm
shoulders,
him
holding
down.
him like that, and Will looks like he's got tears in his eyes. Now, obviously we are mental health advocates on a daily basis across all our social media channels. We
Change the title.
have no knowledge of what's going on in their life, but for me it felt, as one human being to another, watching that he was not in a good place. To lose it on the most important of your nights, it suggests to me that he has a real mental health issue. Now, just before we went live, Mark showed me the photographs of him and his family at the party.
They went to the Vanity Fair party.
And that, I just think, is just awful.
Gabrielle, has Will Smith apologised? He's apologised to the Academy, and he apologised for losing his shit, but he hasn't apologised to Chris Rock.
But I think that's terrible. And I think it's terrible that he went to the party. I think it's really inappropriate that he went to a party. And I think if I'd been his family, I would have taken him home and said, we need to go home. We need to, talk. That's not okay what happened tonight. He went to the party?
I mean,
if he's not well, was there nobody that could just take him to one side and say, this probably isn't the best idea?
can I just say, does anyone else have
I think he must have been in shock, though.
Does anyone think, could there in any way, shape or form, could this be the biggest prank on Hollywood?
No.
Do you not think?
No,
Has it gone
not,
too
not,
far?
No. The Academy have made a statement. The LAPD have made a statement. No, you don't muck about with this sort of thing.
Read out what your Sean King said.
And also,
Oh,
what do
we've
you
got it
think
here.
of this? What do you think of this? Jaden, his son,
That's
posted on
yeah.
Instagram, and that's how we do it. What do you think of that? I didn't like that. What did you think of that?
Yeah, well, unbelievable. I mean, it kind of, I don't know, it just suggests a kind of attitude to I mean, look, here's the thing, right? If he had, a lot of people saying it was well known that Jada Pinkett Smith had alopecia. You didn't know, and you're
I
a
didn't
fan. You're a
know.
fan of this stuff. So, I mean,
No.
I guess you could argue in Hollywood
And
he
I
would have known.
watch a lot of this sort of stuff, and we...
But could it, just being devil's advocate, he might have even known, but could he have just been referring to the fact that her hair looked really cool and it looked
I
like
don't
G.I.
think
Jane?
it was insulting, because for me, G.I. Jane was a really cool movie star.
Yeah, but even if he has insulted him, don't you take this business off stage and just take it to the right, and you take it sort of off screen and you deal with it back there? Surely.
I mean, there's a lot of people saying he shouldn't have made a comment about his wife, but if you look back over the Oscars, this is
That's
what
what happens.
happens. Every single Oscar, the BAFTAs this year was a constant, taking the piss
Oh
out
my
of
God.
Benedict Cumberbatch.
Cucumber patch, yeah, absolutely.
Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yeah.
It is what happens at these award shows, because it's all about, here you've got these great big movie stars, and we're just going to knock them all down a bit, because that's what the audience love to do. They love to laugh at that. So it's absolutely been the way for a decade at least,
Yeah.
where you get the piss ripped out of
Oh
you.
my God, yeah, Ricky Gervais at the Golden Globe. What do you think Ricky Gervais is going to do with this? I mean, Jesus Christ. Quite something.
That's a good point. Somebody just said to me about Jaden Smith. Could he have been talking about the Oscar win?
Possibly. He's left it up.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I hadn't thought of that. Thank you for that.
Will Smith was laughing until he saw Jada's face under a crash. Then Will went up. She wears the pants. She's told of many affairs. No excuse for the violence.
Listen. If she was offended, then absolutely, Will has every right to be upset. To maybe have a word with him afterwards and say, listen, Chris, you might not know, or can we just take my wife out of it? But to get up on stage, if we condone this, we are condoning toxic masculinity on a level that's off the scale. This is what we're trying to break down, that men are supposed to get up and slap and do whatever to protect their... It's bollocks.
Yeah.
And it's a really, really bad message to get out to young men and boys, and it's just, we don't want that.
Sandy, yeah, but should it just be it's what happens? Insulting and berating each other. What about hashtag be kind?
Well, that's something
that's
different.
A different
that's
argument,
a different argument. We're talking,
Because I sometimes think, oh my God, this fine line.
That's why I never watched the award ceremonies, because I hate it. I actually hate it.
And also Ricky Gervais, a lot of presenters have taken it very close to the wire. So I think it's a really fair point, Sandy. You can ask whether this should happen at all, but it's become the norm. It's become the shtick. It's become a kind of forum to sort of, it's called roasting, isn't it? They have whole shows of the something roast.
Who's that? I would have been nipping my husband and pulling him to stay in his seat.
So he didn't.
So would I. I would have been, do not move, because I knew, I would know that you would regret it. I mean, maybe the way he was able to go to the party was he was in bloody shock. Because it's the most shocking thing in years that's happened in the celebrity world. I mean, honestly, it's...
Minky Moo says Chris Rock was also showing masculine toxicity. I think we're equally sharing the blame of that there. Aaron Bullenmoy, if you're going to make jokes about someone else, it should be to make fun of power and privilege, not punching down on the sick or powerless. Okay. I hate Oscar Joe. I genuinely don't think he was punching down on sickness and powerlessness.
I don't think he was. I really genuinely
But also I think they're seen as Hollywood royalty. I think they're kind of untouchable. I think...
And Will Smith likes to be self-deprecating and take the piss. I mean, he does do quite a lot of that.
I think he was genuinely paying a backhanded compliment, but by also roasting, because there is some beef. It could be all of those things all at once. I mean, I'm not seeking to defend him, but I just don't think he would. I just don't think he would have been making a direct...
Somebody's just saying there, it was the shouting.
Yeah.
The rage was almost worse than the hit. Get my wife out of your fucking mouth. I mean, you're sitting in the Oscar... He completely lost it. He got that, what's it called when that, they say, when the red mist, it's like the red mist had come down. And it's a shame, because, all the people that worked on that movie, Will winning his first Oscar, this will taint it all forever, won't it?
It's only me. I think it's time we move past roasting people's physical appearance. You can't change it just because you're famous.
I don't think he was roasting. I don't agree that he was roasting her.
I do.
No, I think he was... I don't think he was roasting her appearance.
He wasn't roasting her about her alopecia.
It's only roasting her if he knew she had alopecia. But he was like looking forward to the second G.I. Jane, who was the most gorgeous goddess of the 90s.
Yeah.
And Jada was standing there looking like a goddess, looking beautiful.
Do you want to read out what Sean King had to say? Because I think it was quite interesting.
Sean King, so just want to explain who Sean King, I talk about him all the time, don't I? He's a civil rights campaigner out in America, and he's just a great guy, and he's just, honestly, follow him. He's just incredible. The more I think about this, the more I think that what we saw was the straw that broke the camel's back. Will has openly admitted to having a lot of pent-up anger, and this was that one moment that set it all off. It's sad. I just hate it for everybody, all of them. Will was held back for a generation, and this was the one time he decided not to, and it was the
Which puts you in mind again of Denzel Washington's quote, doesn't it? What a time to blow!
And then
what a time
this
to blow.
actor, Miles Mussenden, if you watch...
The Walking Dead?
Walking Dead, he says, while I get Will losing it, this was a blow to our community, especially during a time when rappers are getting killed and violence against black folk. I hope they fix this in a public way so it can be used to help heal our folks. Nobody knows how much pain the Smiths have gone through behind the scenes with her hair loss. Just a fucked up situation.
Yeah.
It really was. It really, really was.
There were no winners.
He also talks, doesn't he, in his autobiography about his father's addiction.
His background,
his background. He's overcome a life of violence and anger and upset, and there was another really good quote from him, wasn't there, Will, saying, it was something like, everything that you see is an artifice, is a construct. I'm a constructed person because I'm just trying to deal with my fear all the time. I found that really sad. Yeah.
Matt, it's a joke. All these people saying Rock was in the wrong. Comedy needs to be protected at all costs. Jerry Agar, I've been told that he was responding to his wife's fury about the joke. He had been told off for laughing at the joke. Will Smith responded to his wife being upset. What do we think about this gender thing? This is what Chris, because I heard Nick Ferrari saying this morning things along the line of to people, well, I mean, if you heard someone saying that about your wife,
lady,
your lady, would you not feel compelled to jump
right,
up?
What would you do then?
In that situation,
you
I would have
felt-
just smiled through gritted teeth throughout it. If you'd then told me afterwards you were really offended, and I had any way of being, and I was as big as Will Smith, I'd have had a chat with him afterwards.
But what about if you'd felt, if I'd looked humiliated, like you felt this man has just humiliated my wife in front of everybody?
The last thing I do is go up on stage and
Yeah.
humiliate us further.
It's just, I just can't imagine a place where you would do that, how that could happen.
The last thing you would do is go up and make it worse, even if you wanted
That's
me
why
to.
I just keep coming back to, I think he's in a mental health crisis, and he just...
I mean, he talks in his book of wanting to have killed his father. His father was a chronic alcoholic, and, you know, I mean, you can't keep blaming current behaviour on the past. I mean, we all have to get over it. We all have to move on. You have to kind of, you know, make
Yeah, but it's
choices.
not
But
blaming,
but it does feed
yeah.
into the personality.
Personality, yeah.
I do wonder whether off the back of this, there's going to be a reevaluation of what hosting or being a guest presenter of an Oscar is about. I mean, they do rehearse these scripts, and so will we ever find out or no? Maybe Chris Rock will tell us if this was in the script and they'd run through this, and I was Chris Rock, I would be absolutely fucking furious. If this has
Yes.
been run
Oh,
through.
that's what we've not discussed. Do we think he should press charges?
Well, I mean, Chris Rock
Would
at
you?
the moment isn't pressing charge. Well, you know what? I think if they've had a relationship or friendship in the past, I think they, you know, that this could just make it go on for longer. I mean, I don't know where. I'd be fascinated to know what Chris Rock is feeling like. You know,
Somebody just said there, and it's a good point. He should have. I wished he'd have called Chris Rock out in his speech.
Yeah.
He
Sophie
could have
R,
right
yeah.
at the beginning, in a really dignified way, say,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, absolutely.
You know, you may not know that actually my wife has suffered with alopecia. It's a problem, you know, for so many. He could have raised some awareness.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so cringe.
Some other comments. What? So, okay, here's a question. Who thinks that Chris Rock should press charges or should have pressed charges?
Good point. Sean Williams has apologised to everyone except Chris Rock. That's a problem for me. That's a real problem
Sorry,
for me.
say that again.
He has apologised to everyone apart from
Apart
Chris
from
Rock.
Chris Rock.
That's a problem for me. I'm a great believer. I think too often in the world these days, apologies aren't enough. You know, even but I'm a great believer in a proper heartfelt apology and forgiving somebody if they really mean. Mark and I have this sometimes, don't we? When I go to him, that's not a real apology. It's made me hate you more. Yeah. You know when somebody really is like mortified.
Ricky
So
Gervais.
maybe he's not sorry you hit him.
Ricky Gervais. Just because you're offended doesn't mean you're right.
Good point.
That's a good point. Yeah, very strong. Russ says yes, he should press charges. Baltimore Get Up, Jaden Worse. Lots of you saying no, he shouldn't press charges.
Okay, so for anyone that thinks he shouldn't press charges, I really, really want to know why, because I don't know what I think on this.
Reese Roberts, the consequences for Will being black and as successful as he is are too great for it to be a Hollywood joke. That's why Denzel gave him that advice, because he has known the values of composure.
Yeah, no, and that's what's so frustrating. He's held it together. If he had this kind of anger in him, he held it together and then he got to the top and he fucked it up.
Leanne Edmonds, I commend Will
I've got my
Smith.
head in my hands because I can't believe it.
Leanne Edmonds, I
Silly
commend Will
boy.
Smith for sticking up for his wife, but not through violence. He could have said it with words, not actions. Violence is never the answer. He needs to apologise to Chris Rock in person.
Have you ever had red mist? I have. I've had red mist where I've gone, not that I've got violent, but I've gone so crazy and said such terrible things, and it has been a red mist. I mean, I've been like that with you, haven't I, in fights where I've just said absolutely the worst of everything, very much in my menopause, not an excuse, but it was around that time where I was not quite right. And I have gone, and nothing on this earth would have stopped me. And that's why I'm more careful when I judge people that seem to have an insane moment. I mean, we may reveal, God knows, it may be revealed, all sorts of stuff might come out about Will Smith and what he's been like. I don't know. I've never heard anything negative about Will Smith.
Him and his family looked very composed, though, at the Vanity Fair party.
Yeah,
I mean, they looked
but I think
brilliantly
they're
composed.
in shock. Are they in shock, or are they just totally full of themselves and going, well, you know, that's what we do? We don't know. All of this will come out. But that's why I do have an understanding of losing it.
Yeah.
Do you? You've lost
Yeah,
it.
yeah, absolutely. Everyone loses it at some point. I mean,
Well, not everyone. Some people
Well,
never
no, a
do.
lot- I
I've
think-
got friends who've never lost. Like when I tell them how I've lost it, they look at me like I need to be put away. They go,
Really?
what?
Right.
You've said that. Yeah, absolutely. I've got,
Wow, okay.
when my temper goes, I hate it so much. When I look back at all the times I've really lost my temper, I think I was at the lowest of myself as a person, definitely, and feel ashamed about it.
Yeah.
So,
Creatorholic
well,
says-
you know of a particular time that I'm talking about. I'm not
Yeah,
going to share with people,
yeah.
but you know what I mean,
Yeah,
Mark.
yeah, yeah.
If somebody had seen me on that night,
Oh, yeah.
what would they have thought of me for the rest of my life? They would have judged me
Yeah.
on
Terrible.
that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no, you're right. If you get a snapshot of someone, but I mean, you go red every time you say Mark, Nadia.
Red mist.
Aaron, I can't believe that he didn't have that voice in his head telling him this is the Oscars. Now is not the time. And
but that's the red mist. That's
that's
what
the
I'm
red mist.
talking about. There is something that can happen to some human beings. And believe you me, like there's a particular time I'm talking about with Mark, with my red mist. And I behaved so far out of who I am and so far away from my character. But if I had done something in that moment that was illegal, I would want to have paid the price because it was in me. You know what I mean? That red mist was in me, and it's dangerous to have a red mist.
Sarah Beaton, if a member of the public had walked up on stage and slapped him, they would have been escorted out
That's
of the building
so
and charged.
true.
That is
But
true.
can you imagine backstage, the producers, the directors, everyone going, what the fuck
What the
do we
fuck
do?
just
Because they all
happened?
knew he was going to win the Oscar.
Yeah, that was all.
I mean,
yeah,
you couldn't write it.
No.
This is a movie in itself.
yeah. Johnny Kay, I genuinely think that Chris Rock must have thought he might be dreaming. That's how
Yeah,
unbelievable.
shocked. He was
I mean,
so
look
shocked.
at his
Bless
face.
him.
Look at his
Horrible,
face.
horrible.
Yeah.
What do you think the conversations might have been with producers and directors backstage? Do you think the conversation would have happened should he be taken out of the... or not? It's like royalty. Remember, it's like saying,
Well,
shall we
how-
take the Queen out?
Well, no.
Because
But
they
also
are their
they're presented
royalty.
with a total dilemma. I mean, how do you remove from the building the guy who is yet to have been announced as the winner of the Best Actor? So you announce the Best Actor and he's been removed. You couldn't have that. I mean, I'm guessing they'd all sit there saying, we have to calm him down and let's just trust and hope that he says something in his reception speech. Or
Laura Lou, we can't treat one person better than another, and you know you're right. If anyone else had got up on that stage, if any earthling, not movie star, had got up and hit him like that in the face, he would have had his arms behind his back, he would have been
just
cuffed,
taken out the
and he would
building.
have been taken off.
Yeah. Listen, Lola J, you make a really, really good point. The Oscars incident reflected the intersection of many delicate and far-reaching issues. Your dialogue reflects this too. It's totally mind-boggling how it
mind-boggling.
splinters. This topic
Yes.
splinters into so many different other topics,
Toxic
issues,
masculinity,
issues
feminism,
of race, wokeness, all this kind of
control.
stuff. How to deal with it? Mental health?
just everything.
And also the nature of their relationship too. What is the nature of Jada and Will's relationship? Is there a sort of issue where he felt he,
I think he should have been escorted out. Personally, I think he should have been escorted out. Because if it was a pure act of violence in a toxic masculinity way, then out. If he was unwell, out.
Yeah, and
You can't. How he continued. Now, the more I think about it, Mark, I wasn't sure. The more I think about it and talking with you guys, the more I think, why the hell wasn't he walked out of there?
But can I also say one important narrative that really mustn't develop is that this all becomes the responsibility of Will Smith's wife.
Yeah,
Do you know
that
what I mean?
could happen.
That's the kind of sexism.
That's where Nick Ferrari was going. She gave him a look. I might have given you a look if you'd laughed at something that I found offensive.
Exactly.
But I wouldn't expect you to. That's not me signalling you to go and slap
Yeah, we
somebody's
can't
arse you
abdicate
put
him
down the face.
of his own kind of responsibility and his own decisions. Can I just ask a simple question? Should Will have his Oscar taken away? Should Will Smith
Personally,
have his Oscar
I'm
taken
gonna
away?
start
Yes or
off
no?
on that. For me, no.
Right. Okay.
No.
Should he have his Oscar taken away?
I think he needs something to happen. I'm surprised the LAPD aren't doing anything. I don't know why they're not.
Because I don't think Chris Rock's pressing charges.
Think there
They've
should.
got evidence.
I think he should be. You know what I think he should be? Because I certainly I don't think he should go to jail or anything like that. But I think he should be made to go through some sort of anger management course or something, because if that's in him, that could happen again.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows? He's a Hollywood movie star. He's probably had thousands of hours of therapy.
Yeah. The vast majority of you are saying no. Some of you are saying there is discussion of him possibly having his Oscar taken away from him.
What do you think?
I mean, it's hard to say. I don't know whether, I'm not too sure whether he should have won from a creative perspective, but should he have his, no, I don't think he should have his Oscar. Personally, I don't think he should have his Oscar
Why?
taken away. Because what he did to achieve the Oscar all happened and predated what happened here. This is an unfortunate consequence, but I think he'd done everything required. The Academy had looked at his work. It was the pinnacle. I mean, I'm looking at an image of him crying in his acceptance speech, and I have compassion. My heart breaks
and his
for him.
face when Bradley Walsh, I nearly said it
My
again.
heart absolutely
Bradley
breaks for
Cooper's
him.
holding his shot. My heart breaks for him. I think
Because
it's horrific.
I now really worry what the consequences of this are going to be for him alone. So how much more punishment does he need? This, his Oscar win is never going to be talked about in any other context, isn't it? The skill and the his artistry, which got him this award, is forever going to be overshadowed by this.
This will be the thing that he's famous for. And when you think where he came from, incredibly difficult childhood, to be a movie star is incredibly tough, right? We talk about, they're treated like royalty and everything. You have to be an athlete. You have to be incredibly well read. You have to be aware of. It's a 24/7 job to be a movie star, to be a mega star. These things don't come easy. And he's grafted, and he is a true talent. And he's an incredibly smart, charismatic, powerful person. And he will be reduced to this slap. And so for nothing to happen, okay, he's going to get a lot of punishment for nothing to be seen to happen by people that look up to him and young people that look up to him, I think that's a problem.
I agree. Rhys Roberts, I think they were trying to save face at the party because the alternative of fleeing to go home then reaffirms the embarrassment and the need to hide away after winning. Told you head high is key.
Louise, it's why he doesn't need punishment. The publicity and aftermath is his punishment. But does he need to be seen to be punished? Because, listening to the Raiders, if you go and give a slap, if you're white, I hate that tone. I don't think that should be pushed out there. He's a megastar. I mean, there are millions of people that
hang
look
on a
up to
minute,
this guy.
it's simpler than that. It's all so much simpler than that. Regardless of what someone says, you don't go and punch them in the face.
No.
Not or
so
slap them in the face.
there has to be something to be seen to be done.
Yeah, there does. I mean, if there's beef, you go off stage, you go somewhere else and you deal with it there. Or, as someone suggested, Sophie, I think, you deal with it in your acceptance speech. You kind of cleverly... Will Smith is a smart guy. He's got the gift of the gab.
Smart.
He could have really sort of munched Chris Rock up with a comeback of some form.
But that's, again, what makes me feel he's not well.
Zone Flash 669. If someone disrespects your wife on national TV in front of millions, that can break a man. I would do the same thing. He was correct to defend himself and his wife. Okay.
I'm afraid I don't agree, son. Yeah. I just think violence is violence. I just think he was completely outweighed to what had happened.
Oh.
I mean, if you're saving somebody's life, if it's a life and death situation, then absolutely. But for me, any violence otherwise is just a terrible...
Yeah. Elsa Pop, I think Will Smith was out of order, but if you think what Chris Rock said is okay, then you're saying bullying is okay.
No,
I don't think you're having a crack. No. I think the point that I'm trying to make is I have for many years now felt really uncomfortable, increasingly uncomfortable, about this roasting element
That's why I don't watch it.
And taking the piss.
It.
I mean, I thought Rebel Wilson took it very close to the wire at the BAFTAs.
I think she went too far.
Too far.
She just kept going on and on at Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yeah.
But it's what this has become.
But,
and maybe this will be a turning point.
And I think it might be a turning point. And I think actually in deference to the crowd, maybe the majority of all these famous faces in the audience equally have no say in it. These are the organisation. Once again, is it the Academy? Is it the BAFTA? Is it the organisers of these award ceremonies that need to take a really long sort of important look at their rules of engagement when it comes to awarding prizes? If this was scripted and rehearsed and gone through, I think Chris Rock has even more grievance to share. We could read into Chris Rock not pressing charges that he has an understanding that this will be damaging enough for Will Smith anyway. So, you know, there are so many things that we just don't know.
Somebody's saying there, his YouTube series, he talks about his mental health issues, Will Smith. I mean, yeah. Oh, God, I really wish he hadn't done it at the end of the day.
Baltimore Get Up. Chris
Imagine
didn't
how they all feel today. I mean,
Yeah.
what a downer.
Yeah.
When you've just won the Oscar as well.
Baltimore Get Up. Chris didn't do anything different than any other comedian does. And
Exactly.
I think
That's
that's an
the
important point.
That's
They're
the
trying
point.
to make us laugh. I get anxiety just getting on stage. I don't understand why people don't think of the Joker either.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I've never liked roasting.
No.
So when Mark says, "Oh, let's watch this thing," and you've become increasingly uncomfortable with it, I find it so cringy.
I'm not watching the awards for that, though.
Because no, of course not. But that's what it's become
Yeah,
a lot
yeah.
of it. And even with Rebel Wilson the other day. Oh, saw her the other day.
Oh, did
by the
you?
way, yeah,
Yeah.
this close. I know she was trying to be funny, but it wasn't funny.
Yeah.
And it was just like, yeah. But that is a separate issue from what has gone on today. And that is a big discussion to have.
Sorry. The only reason I'm laughing is God only knows what would have happened to Sophie R. Question. What would people have thought if Chris Rock fought back?
Good question.
Fucking hell. I mean, do you remember the year where they announced
Oh
La La
my
Land and they
God.
announced the wrong film on the
Yeah.
best Oscar? And imagine if imagine if Chris Rock had actually defended himself.
How would we have all felt if Chris Rock had hit him back?
Oh, this is a really important point. Where's it coming through? Again, from you, Reese. Just waiting for it to come through. I think there's a bit of a delay. Oh, it's a really good point. Oh, yeah, here. The ceiling to reach levels of success as a black entertainer like Will is extraordinary and admirable. At the end of the Oscars, a young black trophy assistant was crying meeting Will for the it tails off for you. Yeah. I'm going to do a separate chat about the Oscar winners later, Faith. I'm going to talk about.
I feel the regret as if it was my own family. It's just you want to go, why did you do that? What's the matter with you?
What do you think? Tamsin T. Fairweather says Will Smith is over. What do you think the consequences are going to be for him?
I don't think there'll be any consequences for his movie career. I really genuinely don't. I genuinely don't. I predict, though I could, of course, be wrong, I predict we're going to find out that Will is not well.
Yeah.
And I think that would be the biggest problem for him, because we know how much prejudice there still is with mental health issues. But I don't think the act would stop him. What do you think? What do you think?
I don't know.
I just don't know.
I
mean, when you
don't know.
think back to some of the terrible things that movie stars have done,
I think the only way
and they've carried on. As long as you're making money for the big people that want lots of money.
I think the way out of it for both of them, and this is something they should consider, I think if they were to both in some way reunite and not make light of it, but sort of turn it into a virtue for both of them. You know, Will Smith like fucking hell overreacted, Chris Rock like Jesus. Like, you know, if they could find some way of together puncturing the heat in this, it could fall neatly for both of them. I think it could.
We need to see resolution between
Yeah.
the two of them. We need to see them. I mean, not literally see them. We need to know. And the big problem is that he hasn't apologised to Chris.
Yeah.
And I've got so much empathy for him, for his family, for whatever he might be going through. But I've got two big problems. You haven't apologised.
Yeah.
And I still think the party was about shock. I don't think they were like having the best time of their life at the party, but it is an uncomfortable thing that they went to.
Well, here's a thought to conjure with, and if I was the head of, say, Samuel Goldwyn Mayer or one of the studios, that could be one way of kind of, you know, turning this into a positive. But it's not pretty. Someone's asking, is there any other news? There is other news, but you know what? This is the big news story of the day.
We're just doing that today.
Yeah.
Because like one of you very articulately said, oh look, King Richard, look what just popped up there. Was that this opens so many mini debates within it. It's just a very rich, in a way, story about life and about relationships and about... That's why we made the decision to just talk about this, because we were finding this morning that we were just, and what about this and what about that and what about... Yeah.
Someone somewhere jokes about appearances, low-hanging fruit. Jokes about a black woman's hair, especially from a black man in front of their peers, is poking a very sensitive spot. I think one has to I think one has to understand, you know, the pressure points coming from all sides. So it clearly triggered something. But the bit for me that confuses all of it is watching Will Smith laughing and smiling just seconds before. That's the bit I find really confusing.
Something just snapped in him.
The reason I hesitated over whether he should win the prize, Joey Chaz says it, is that a lot of people say King Richard is just a bit of a turkey of a film. So
Really?
Yeah. It's not good. I tell you who I do feel for as well is the Williams sisters. You know, this is the story of them and their fathers. You know.
Yeah,
life. So,
I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah. Okay, guys.
Listen, guys.
Share your thoughts underneath here still.
Hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. We're here every day apart from Sundays, so do join us.
Take care, guys. Bye.